Excellency.
First of all, let me thank the spokesperson for the President of the General Assembly for organizing this interaction with the global media this early afternoon. I am pleased to participate and in doing so to emphasize the importance that Jamaica places on the success of the Permanent Memorial Project. We in the Caribbean, if one considers our relative size, could claim to have been impacted the most from slavery. Our countries were colonies of one European power or another, and all of us experienced the forced importation of slave labor, not to advance our own development, but rather to build and maintain the riches of others. Taking into account Jamaica's own history and how slavery has impacted our region, Jamaica felt it imperative in the context of the UN's commemoration of the 200th anniversary of the abolition of slave trade in 2007 to secure a tangible place at the United Nations to honor our ancestors. Bearing in mind the high values for which this noble institution stands, we felt it was important for the memorial to be at a prominent place at the United Nations so that it would be accessible to all visitors, delegates, and staff. Jamaica is firmly committed to ensuring that this memorial is not recognized only as a monument to remember those who perished, but also a memorial to say that we will never forget and a symbol to continue to convey the message that racial discrimination should be eliminated altogether. We are, therefore, supremely pleased that the Ark of Return has been completed, and we are truly excited to be unveiling it in a few minutes from now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. It is now my privilege and honor to kindly request Ambassador Courtenay Rattray, please, to come to the podium. Ambassador Rattray is the chair of the Permanent Memorial Committee. Excellency.
Thank you, Jean-Victor. It has been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to have had the opportunity to chair the Permanent Memorial Committee and to advance the work towards the completion of the Permanent Memorial. As Minister Nicholson has said, this is a matter of great importance to Jamaica and also for the CARICOM countries. In fact, member states of the General Assembly have overwhelmingly supported this initiative, as evidenced in the high number of co-sponsors for the annual resolution on the matter, and of course, through their financial support. It has been in some ways a grueling task, but while I have these special guests at the head table, it is appropriate, I think, for me to express thanks and to let you know that each of the perspectives they have been instrumental. First of all, Minister Nicholson and the government of Jamaica has consistently given their full support, political and otherwise, to advance this project. Madam Bokova and her colleagues at UNESCO has been a steadfast partner with their expertise and her personal commitment and support. Without UNESCO, we probably would have no design at this point. Rodney Leon has been a consummate professional, committed to the task, and is the creator of the actual memorial. Professor Crusol represents Martinique, which has made a significant financial contribution in support of this project. All our contributors have played a critical role in ensuring the success of the program, and I too recognize the presence of one such in Ms. Sherry Yan, the chairperson of the Global Sustainability Foundation. The memorial is now a reality. As you heard Minister say, we will unveil it at 2 p.m. this afternoon. In many ways, it is thanks to the partnerships we have forged and the cooperation that has existed between all our stakeholders. Although we know the significant impact it will have on visitors and staff and delegates of the UN, we are committed to ensuring that the finished product will not merely be a monument on the UN platform. We are also committed to ensuring that the efforts and the investment made will ensure that the message of the memorial continues to be spread far and wide. We must learn from the lessons of slavery to ensure that all its negative impacts are redressed and that racial equality is achieved in all facets of life. We will count on you for your support to help spread this message. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Ambassador Rattray. It is now my privilege and great pleasure to recognize and to kindly request the Director General of UNESCO to take the floor. Madame Bokova.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, honorable ministers, ambassadors, ladies and gentlemen. For UNESCO to be associated with this historic, I would say, endeavor was at the same time a privilege, an honor, and a very natural consequence of all the work that UNESCO has been done to retain the memories about these dark pages in the human history, but also to present this monument as a kind of a call to action. We were participating in all the stages of the work on this memorial, and if you allow me just to mention that UNESCO has led the process of the competition. We have had selecting 16 semi-finalists among 310 professionals who participated from 83 nationalities, from 5 continents, and I would say from 4 generations of artists, architects, and designers. And I have once again the pleasure of congratulating Rodney, the distinguished winner of the competition and the creator of this inspiring arc of return. I think this is, when I said it was almost natural for us to lead this competition, is because we drew on our experience. We drew on a very inspiring project, the Slave Route Project, whose 20th anniversary we celebrated last year. During this 20 years, I would say, of hard work, we wanted not only to break the silence around the slavery and slave trade, we wanted to shed light on the struggles for dignity and freedom of enslaved people, and also to show their contribution to strengthening these fundamental notions of humanity, of liberty, of justice, and also to contribute to dialogue among cultures, to show all the contribution that people from African descent have made also to other countries. So this work has a multifaceted approach. On one side, let me give an example that we have inscribed 14 sites on the World Heritage List. These 14 sites are directly linked to slavery and to slave routes. Of course, I'm speaking about Ile de Gorée or the Gold Coast in Ghana, but also in the Caribbean, many of the sites that are inscribed have a direct bearing. We also have 30 sites that are historically linked to slavery. They are not directly linked, but historically, and they are waiting to be inscribed. They're in the so-called tentative list. And another 38 sites which are linked, and another 38 sites which are on the tentative list, and we hope that they will be soon inscribed. We have more than 200,000 historic archives which have been digitalized in order to protect and preserve them. And also, we have in the launching of another major project of UNESCO, the General History of Africa, we have already published 8 volumes. We launched last year the ninth volume, which will be dedicated and is dedicated to the African diaspora. And we think this ninth volume also will be very much linked to what we are currently discussing. And the finishing of this work is to translate all this into the textbooks. The pedagogical use, we believe, is very important, so that we teach young people, we teach young generations about retaining this memory, drawing the lessons also, and looking for the future. This work, the pedagogical use, we will probably finalize this year. This is our ambition, so that 2016 we launch it. And I think having this memorial here in such a prominent place, and I would like particularly to thank Jamaica for all the effort in leading in the Caribbean community, in leading this important, I would say, project with which UNESCO has been associated, will give us not only the visibility, but will give us the conviction that we will continue this important work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madame Bokova. I will actually ask our penultimate speaker, Mr. Rodney Leon, to please come to the podium so that the camera can have a full view of you because of the size of the room. Please. It is clear that you did not design this. So, Rodney Leon is, as has been said before, the designer and the architect of the permanent memorial. And for me, I'm very proud to introduce him. Welcome, Rodney. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Please.
Well, thank you very much. And I'd like to take this opportunity actually to thank all the wonderful work that's gone on before we actually came to the table. It's taken many years of struggles and dedications, I'm sure administratively and politically, but the results are not only the design work that we've done culminating in the design of the Ark of Return, but really it's a process of the dedication that so many people from UNESCO, from the Permanent Mission of Jamaica, the Permanent Memorial Committee, and so many of the ambassadors and people that believed in this project and were able to push it forward, that allowed us the opportunity for us to be here today. It's really an honor as a descendant of Haitian parents and a first-generation American, and of course, a descendant of Africa, to be given this honor to memorialize the memories of so many of those who had sacrificed and come before me and come before us. And it's really on the shoulders of those people that sacrificed so much that I am here today and all of us are here today. So the memorial really is an opportunity to talk about and to reflect upon the past, but also to acknowledge what it is that we have been able to accomplish here in the present by coming together to actually endeavor to create this object in this space at the United Nations for people to then be able to reflect on that history, and for us to be able to also design an object which will be, I think, a reminder for us in the future, lest we forget the past, not to repeat that historic legacy of slavery and oppression, because even today there are many people in oppressed conditions and in contemporary forms of slavery, and we see this monument in acknowledgement of our ancestors, as well as acknowledgement, and we see it as an opportunity for us to educate the future generations who come in the future. So I'd like to thank all of you for coming, and if there's any questions about the design, I'll be here to answer that.
Thank you, Rodney. We'll come to the Q&A later. May I say in Creole, merci en pile, Tchembe.
Merci.
Thank you, thank you. The next speaker is Professor Jean Crusol. Professor Jean Crusol represents Martinique, and he's here on behalf of the President of the Regional Council of Martinique, President Letchimy. Professor Crusol is a professor emeritus who is a lecturer at the University of the French West Indies and Guyana. He's also the chair of the Economic Affairs Commission in the Regional Council of Martinique. He has published 10 books, numerous papers in various publications all over the world. He is an expert on this field. He has also worked a lot on island economies. His statement has been distributed to you. We'll put it online very shortly, as well as we'll also put online the statement, the remarks, the videos, and the photos covering this event. Without further ado, Professor Jean Crusol.
Thank you, Jean-Victor, for this nice introduction. Excellency, Senator Joseph Nicholson, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade of Jamaica. It's a pleasure to see you again here in New York. Excellency, Madam Irina Bokova, Director General of UNESCO. Excellency Ambassador Courtenay Rattray, Permanent Representative of Jamaica and Chair of the Permanent Memorial Committee. My dear brother from Haiti, Sophe, Rodney Leon, architect and designer of this beautiful piece of work that we have here, of the Permanent Memorial. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a representative of Martinique, the native land of Aimé Césaire, the father of negritude, and Frantz Fanon, who have dedicated their lives to the struggle against racism, discrimination, colonialism, and for the emancipation of people of African descent. The delegation I am honored to lead is at this unveiling ceremony of the Permanent Memorial honoring the victims of slavery on the transatlantic slave trade. I would like to convey to you the fraternal salute of President Serge Letchimy. I talked about the delegation. I would like that the member of our delegation from Martinique stand up so everybody can see them, please. Karine Wakamille, Madame Wiltor, and Madame Vulcain. This is indeed an historic event. We thank Her Excellency Mr. Sam Kahamba Kutesa, President of the General Assembly, and His Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General, for their vision and leadership. We congratulate Jamaica, CARICOM, and the African Union for their leading role in successfully conducting and effectively delivering this magnificent project. We are here today to reiterate one of the greatest human tragedies, greatest by its duration, 400 years, by its scope, linking 3 continents, Africa, the Americas, Europe. Its magnitude, between 10 and 20 million victims, cannot be, should not be, buried under the shroud of oblivion. All tragedies engender their heroes. We are also here to celebrate the courage, the resilience of heroes who gave their lives throughout history to end this tragedy. Injustice and violence by masters against slaves have often been denounced, and rightly so. But what has less been discussed is how the Caribbean in particular, slavery and trafficking of slaves have generated a completely disarticulated economy and deeply unbalanced communities. From the 18th century, the slave trade economy in the region is a capitalist endeavor where the rationale of profitability and market philosophy are omnipresent. The slave is a commodity that can be sold, bought, exchanged. Whether for import or export, what is important is that slave brings dividend, brings dividends that pay off. He is exploited in the production of goods sold on foreign market for profit. At the time when European companies were mainly traditional peasant enterprise, economic calculation were based on slavery, and an organization leading these commercial entities to integrate a system specializing in a structured, unstructured, in an international trade. The African continent was meant to provide slave labor, the islands to provide export goods for European traders who in turn would sell and provide machinery, food and goods for the consumption of masters and slaves. These developments lead to several consequences. Economically, the island become totally dependent of the outside world, producing goods exclusively for export while importing everything they need. This meant that unlike a normal society that seeks to explore within its own resources what its needs would be, societies under slavery are forced to survive whilst completely disconnected from their natural environment in almost total ignorance of its diverse potential. Thus, malnutrition and famine were common occurrences in these societies, even though food resources were abundant. Socially, as the most important factor of production, of the production chain, is a man, preferably young, in the prime of life. The enterprise developed a society where men became the majority, 70%, by far, where the old and the children were a tiny proportion of the slave population, 5 to 10%, and where women are a minority, 30%. One can imagine the consequences of such imbalances and their impact on the family, on sexuality, the transmission of culture, and other key social factors. Culturally, according to the vision held by the slave masters, keeping slaves at work was much easier, for the enslaved people could not communicate with each other, and if, above all, they are not able to understand each other, they cannot agree with each other and organize for resistance. This is why the economy of slavery has purposefully mixed ethnic groups, ensuring that the population mix is made in of different languages and culture, and if at all possible, cultural groups that would be hostile to each other. Under these conditions, one can imagine how difficult it must have been for slaves to develop solidarity and foster a caring community. Nonetheless, each continent, each country, each island has its heroes. In 1791, Haiti, where, as Césaire once said, negritude stood up for the first time, under the leadership of Toussaint Louverture, who opened the way of emancipation for blacks in the Americas, an audacity for which Haiti paid a high price. Numerous imperialist aggression, the double debt of some 150 billion in gold, marginalization, misery. In Jamaica, Nani, Cudjoe, and their brethren did sound the abang, rallying the Maroons as early as the 17th century. In St. Lucia, in St. Croix, Boudreaux led the peaceful rising that resulted in the abolition of slavery in 1848. In St. Lucia, close to Martinique, Flore Gaillard led l'Armée Française des Bois, the army of French revolutionaries, to victory. And the list is long. May I add, Mr. Chairman, two more names?
Please.
Two lives that symbolize both the tragic and the heroic in our history. A woman from Guadeloupe named Solitude, a man from Martinique named Delgrès. Born in 1772 in Guadeloupe, of the rape of her mother by a white sailor on the ship that took her away from Africa. La mulâtresse Solitude joined as a teenager a powerful band of Maroons in Guadeloupe, where she fought for many years. In 1802, when Napoleon's troops invaded Guadeloupe to restore slavery, which had been abolished in 1794 by the French Revolution, she joined the army of Republican rebels led by Louis Delgrès. Taken prisoner at the Battle of June 8, 1802, she was sentenced to death. She was just 30. Noting that she was pregnant, the judges decided she should wait until the birth of her baby and be hung the day following delivery. Delgrès, who I mentioned already, was born in Martinique in 1766. His mother was a black woman and his father a white Creole. He entered the local militia, where he rose quickly to a high rank. Very early, he took side with the abolitionists. When in 1791, within the context of the French Revolution, as the slave owners of Martinique seized power and called England to the rescue, Delgrès left to Guadeloupe, where Republicans had initiated a fight against the Royalists. In 1799, he was taken prisoner and sent to England. Released a year later, he returned to Guadeloupe. Although seriously wounded in April 1795, he was found fighting 2 months later, along with the anti-slavery forces in Guadeloupe, in St. Vincent, and in Grenada. In 1796, he was taken prisoner again and once more was sent to England. He managed to return in Guadeloupe in 1799 to support the Republicans who ran the island where slavery had been abolished. In 1802, when Napoleon's troops invaded Guadeloupe to reestablish slavery, he led the resistance. Besieged in May 28, 1802, in Fort Matouba, he committed suicide with explosive, along with 300 of his companions, leaving for posterity a declaration saying, "Live free or die." Solitude and Delgrès are heroes. Heroes who have their place in the pantheon of those who are honored by this permanent memorial. We are also here to say that we have to go further than this. We should try to go further and improve the knowledge of the historical facts, further in the recognition of our heroes, further in the teaching of this history to our children and future generations, while reaching out to the public at large, further in the denunciation of this human tragedy as a crime against humanity. Mrs. Christiane Taubira, our sister from French Guiana, a remarkable member of parliament in the French National Assembly, and current Minister of Justice in the government of President François Hollande. Madame Taubira is the one who in 2001 successfully introduced the law condemning slavery and the slave trade as a crime against humanity. She is quoted as stating in her report that the recognition by France of the slave trade and slavery as a crime against humanity is a one step, albeit essential, but not sufficient, because France is not the only nation to have been involved in this terrible trade. That is why it is necessary to obtain international recognition of this crime as a crime against humanity. This is our challenge. This should be the task, the collective goals of the near future for the family of nations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Crusol. That was quite a remarkable statement and a recollection of very important history. I will now open the floor to the question and answer. Yes, Sherwin.
Thanks, Jean-Victor. My name is Sherwin Bricebees, a correspondent for South African Broadcasting. A warm welcome to the United Nations on behalf of the UN Correspondents Association, and thank you for the briefing. My question is for you, and congratulations, Mr. Leon. My question is for you, Senator Nicholson. Can you talk a bit about the dialogue that CARICOM is pursuing with European nations in terms of the question of reparations? I mean, we talk about a crime against humanity. How has that process proceeded since May last year? And is this something that is likely to end up in the courts?
Well, first, let me say this. As you can well imagine, Jamaica tends to take the leadership within CARICOM on several of these matters. And not without reason. I mean, out of many, one people has been our motto for, since independence. And you are from South Africa. You know, we are not shy in stating that we were the first country to turn our minds, our faces against the horrible issue of apartheid. It is believed within CARICOM that there ought to be some, shall I use the word, payment, either in kind or in some way, for the atrocities that we are speaking about today, that the professor just spoke about. It is an expensive undertaking. It is true that there are entities over time that have got some sort of reparation, the Jews, for example. It is true. And you ask whether it is likely to end up in the courts? I should think so. It is likely to end up, well, I don't know which court, perhaps in the International Court of Justice, I don't know. But we don't claim that that there has to be reparation of a certain type. We don't claim that. There are some who say it should be financial. There are some who say that it should be by technical assistance. Some put forward various things. But the project is going on, but let me repeat, it is an expensive initiative, an expensive exercise.
Thank you, Senator. We'll go to the next question. Yes. Yes, please.
I'm Evelyn Leopold. I come from a country where there's a president who's of African descent, and I don't hear the United States mentioned in any of your committees, commissions, projects, except that you're from there. And I'm just wondering if the U.S. played any role in this, considering what the legacy of slave trade was.
I will ask Ambassador Rattray, the chairman of the Permanent Committee, maybe to answer that question. Ambassador?
Thank you for that question. The United States has indeed played a significant role. You may be aware that they are currently going through their congressional appropriations process at the moment. I have received a letter from the permanent representative of the United States pledging a significant contribution by the United States government to this project. And this is very much as a result of efforts made by persons such as Congresswoman Barbara Lee of the Congressional Black Caucus. The CBC was instrumental in bringing this to the attention of the United States Congress. I don't want to say what the amount is, but it certainly, I can tell you, it is 6 figures, and it will go a long way towards what we are trying to do in terms of funding this project. You may know that the overall budget for this project was $1.776 million. In September of last year, we were still $500,000 short. And Sherry Ann is here. It was through her and her foundation's instrumentality that we were able to mount a very successful pledging lunch that took place on the 10th of December last year. And within the span of 2 hours, we raised $250,000. And now, with all the pledges that have been made, we have a few pledges yet to realize, but once those are realized, we would have met our target. So from where I sit as the chairman, I look at 2 things. Can Rodney deliver this on time? And on time means by the 25th of March. This is the International Day for the commemoration of the victims of slavery and the transatlantic slave trade. So it's an auspicious day. So we needed to make this deadline, and he has delivered on time. And secondly, I look at it through the prism of what I need to do as a fundraiser. Can I get $1.776 million delivered? So that's the answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Before we go to the next question, Madame Bokova.
Just one addition, because we really link this with the Slave Root Project. And let me say that the United States has always supported U.S. Scholars, university professors have participated in all the scientific advisory boards and others. But let me just mention, last week we were commemorating the International Day to Combat Racial Discrimination, and I could welcome at the headquarters the mayor of Birmingham, Alabama, because the Cities Against Racism, we have a network, UNESCO has created a network of Cities Against Racism, and it enjoys the, I would say the majority of the 140 cities that participate in this are US cities, American cities, and he's chairing also, he launched last year a network of American Cities Against Racism. There are more than 40 cities. So I just want to say that there has always been a very close commitment and engagement of the United States in this project.
Thank you so much. Next question. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'd like to follow that up. Are there any of these historical sites that you mentioned inside the United States, and particularly in any northern states? And you said there were 5 continents. I assume Antarctica was one of the others. What is the sixth? What is the other one? And for the senator, if I could ask about the reparations question, I believe Haiti, up until 1960 or even later, it took to repay France for having lost their property. And I was wondering, now that the France has passed this law and called it a crime against humanity, is there a better chance to recover that money? I also think some New York banks made some money on the transfer of that.
Please go ahead.
You think so?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. I don't know that there's a link of what the French have done as far as Haiti is concerned to the reparation initiative that is being pursued by CARICOM. However, I believe that the lawyers would have to use that as some leverage, a lever in putting forward their case. But let me repeat. This issue of reparation that is being, and the foundation is a foundation of slavery and the slave trade. It is not going to be, it is not going to come to fruition by dialogue. I don't think so. I think it has to end up in the courts. The lawyers who are pursuing it on behalf of CARICOM are experienced individuals. I know that they have already carried through successfully at least one case. There are persons who are leading the initiative. Professor Beckles, he is a professor in the Cave Hill campus in Barbados. Hilary Beckles. And there is also a Professor Vereen Shepherd, an accomplished historian who, and she is at the University of the West Indies in Mona, Jamaica. The government of Jamaica supports what they are doing. But as your question, is there a link between what has happened with the French and Haiti recently? I think that is something that the lawyers themselves would have to take up. I don't know that the historians themselves can use that as a leverage.
Thank you. We have Madame Bokova, would you like to add something?
Just in response to the question, by the way, Professor Hilary Beckles is also the chair of our scientific group that is working on the launch of the 9th volume, the People of African Descent, of General History of Africa, a good friend of ours. In terms of your question, we don't have on the 14th, as I said, precisely American sites, but we have on the, as we call them, 38, which are indirectly linked to the, as we consider them, to the slave trade. We have the Independence Hall, of course, which is also considered to be linked, but because this is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. And we have also Monticello and the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, because it also consider that they are linked to the ideas of Thomas Jefferson and everything that was embodied also by this. So we have two sides which are indirectly linked to the slave trade, but not directly.
We just 1 second. No, excuse me. No, yeah.
I would like to continue this with you
Yes,
afterwards.
I think we can try to establish one-on-one interviews. Just send me an email. We'll see what we can do. Time is running short, so we'll have a few quick questions. And Rodney Leon is quite available for one-on-ones later on for in-depth interview. Professor Crusol also. Yes, please. Next question.
Yes, Stefano Vaccara, La Voce di New York and Radio Radicale in Rome. You just said that slave trade and slavery as a crime against humanity is not a crime only of France. I wonder what was asked, what is your relation with the European Union, if it was asked to the European Union to respond to this problem, and also if in the funding side, if the European Union is offering support.
First, Professor Crusol, maybe on the European Union, and then on the funding, Ambassador Rattray.
Concerning the European Union, the question was put on the table of the Parliament of European Parliament, by a deputy representing Martinique some 5 or 6 years ago. For the time being, it is not accepted as a major theme inside the Parliament, but you have some people working on that in the European Parliament.
Ambassador Rattray, on the funding?
Yeah, the EU as a community hasn't made a contribution, but the overwhelming majority of EU member states have contributed in their national capacities.
Yes, a quick question.
Ambassador, this is one question, but we have now all over the world questions of slavery, as we know, all over the world. Will some of these funds be designated to help the children from Boko Haram and some of the other children, in, I think it's Mauritania, they still have slavery, to help them get educated once we help them to be liberated? Will some of these funds be designated for that particular group that are going to need a lot of help, sir?
The remit of the committee was really project related in terms of the construction. So the target of 1.776 million was what it would take to construct. And as I said, we have just met that target. We are continuing the fundraising drive because we are shooting for a residual amount of $100,000 extra that can be used for ongoing maintenance of the memorial here at the United Nations. But your question in terms of extra funding. We're not contemplating extra funding in that sense. But we are working with the United Nations and the Department of Public Information to build it into program budgets so that we will have an amount for that sort of outreach that you speak about, but not through the Permanent Memorial Trust Fund.
Thank you so much. If there are no further questions, I will, yes, please, go on.
This is Sophie de Belmanière for Vice France. My question is for all of you, and it's about today and slavery as a global issue. 1 year ago, I wrote a piece about Maria Fernandez. She was a 32-year-old American citizen, and she died of exhaustion in her car because she was working 4 jobs, 2 of them at Dunkin' Donuts. So at this time of remembrance, I would like to know if you can do anything for today's slaves, and if it makes sense to build a monument also. Thank you.
Maybe Madame Bokova, is it some scope there?
No, I think
no?
I think the professor
Crusol. Yes.
Yeah, but we, of course, I must say that I didn't read your article, but I am quite interested in this matter. And what I can tell you is that if you can send the article for me, and I will be able to let people in the Martinican Assembly know about this.
But she is not the only one. She died because she was working 4 jobs. Many people do this in Europe and in the US. This is my question.
No problem. I'll give you my mail, and we can start an exchange on that.
Absolutely.
Let me just add that as the spokesperson of the President of the General Assembly, you may want to revisit the past resolutions over the past years, where indeed the work that is being done and that has led to this monument has also included the fact that no slavery in the future should be envisaged. So that also includes modern slavery. And this has been the theme of some past commemorations organized by DPI in collaboration with the Office of the President of the General Assembly. I would now like to thank all our participants, starting with the Minister of Foreign Affairs from Jamaica, the Director General of UNESCO, Professor Jean Crusol, the Chair of the Permanent Memorial Committee, Ambassador Rattray. Last but not least, my brother and friend, Mr. Rodney Leon. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Please do come at 2 p.m. at the unveiling, and we'll be posting on the PGA's website material regarding this historic day. Thank you again. Merci beaucoup. Quickly.